the origin myth in Christianity is, I guess Judaism as well, that, God creates man and woman and then they populate the earth. Whereas like the origin myth in the East is that like generally like rich people and poor people are created separately, and poor people are created basically from dirt, you know, and rich people are kind of like molded
Wait, I wasn't aware
particularly.
of that. That's the origin myth in the East?
There's many of them, but yeah, I think one of them is that basically, to be like more precise, like this one goddess picks up a dirty vine that's like covered with like mud, and she just like swings it over her head, and the drops that go flying, become poor people. Like so, it was like barely worth her time to kind of like think about how to create them.
Is there
Um,
any area of Western philosophy that believes in like karma?
if you like read the Bible, they will say that like if you do bad things, you'll be punished, basically, right? And if you do good things, but you mean like reincarnation or like benefits in this life, or what do you mean by karma?
I mean, I guess it would all apply reincarnation benefits in this life and in the afterlife as well. Because, like, my parents are Indian, so I notice it's a very much so, like, do what you're told type of thing. So when I hear philosophies like rich people are rich and they deserve it, poor people are poor and they deserve it, meanwhile, people in the West are like, oh no, that means nothing. Your position in life is more like by luck and all that stuff. I mean, it makes sense to me. There's these like permeating ideas in the way that like people in my family speak, which is like the outcome you get in your life is the one that you deserve. And they're not even like Hindu or anything, any religion that believes in like that kind of karma stuff, but it's like really pervasive in the way that they think.
It's even Buddhist sometimes as well, but like they kind of have the similar kind of reincarnation ideas that you are, the station in life you're born into is due to your virtues in a past life. We're not 100% individualistic, so to a degree, you do things to make your family lineage better off, and if you generations back did good things, there is some sense that you deserve the benefits that your kind of father or grandfather, the efforts that they built. I think there is some sense of kind of deservingness, but there's also, do you see with this kind of equality movement, there's ambivalence there. There's people who say, on the other hand, God created everybody from scratch, as equals essentially, more or less. And so, like, we shouldn't give you so much of your status based on your lineage, or kind of, we should try to flatten that a little bit. So I think within the West, there's always that tension between accepting the benefits conferred by lineage and pushing back on it. I'm lean towards the equality side. I do feel that there is some degree to which it makes sense to treat people as kind of a part of a larger whole. In terms of deservingness, I don't know. And it's fine to have inheritance to a degree, but we shouldn't necessarily have, the same feudal, people running us for generations and generations. How about you? Do you have feelings about these topics?
I mean, I haven't thought too much about this particular idea. My perspective on like the whole generational respect or authority, title or wealth or anything like that to be transferred down from generation to generation, or like some spiritual like deservingness of like, oh, you're in this class of individuals, so you'll stay, your kids will also be in this class of individuals. My take on that was never like a it ought to be this way or it ought to be that way. Like, I have stronger opinions on other things. This one I just sort of left as like, yeah, but the world is, there's cycles of people running things and then they get overthrown, and there's cycles of like these ideas, and even like generational wealth only lasts a few generations. I just like accept things for the way they are. I did have a thought, I did have an idea of like a potential, like not like a philosophical, but like a real world practical change that could be made that I think a lot of people would maybe not like, but I think it's a worthwhile idea to at least think about, which is if someone has a company, that company has a lot of wealth. When they die, the company's wealth and assets and shares shouldn't be given to the children of the owner. It should be given to the employees. It would end up going to the children if the children ended up being employees of the company. If that person was like, they love what they did enough to, when their kids were growing up at a young age, they're like, let me introduce you to this. Like, this is, it's a great, like, meaningful endeavor. Like, be a part of this, get good at it from the ground up. You also be an employee of the company. That seems to make sense to me. I look at every human as just human. So it's passing down wealth from one generation to the next. Although I can understand it, an interesting way to look at it is like simple. Pass it down to who else also cares about that thing that you're doing, the thing that you're making, the project that you're working on, whatever it might be. That also relies on people actually doing what they love as their vocation, as their job, which for the most part is not the case. But in that, perfect world where people are actually doing what they love, then pass that thing on, the responsibility of that thing to other people who also love doing that thing, who want the best for it, rather than possibly potentially someone who might just want the benefits from it but not actually look out for the betterment of that thing, you know? I don't know, just an idea, just a thought that I had.
This is something I was kind of interested in at some point, but there's a whole movement of people who kind of talk about trying to give the ownership of the company towards the employees.
I mean, I assume other people must have thought about this. I'm aware, like, there's all these unions and all this stuff, and I know about like people, huge public companies like Tesla, whatever. They'll give their employees, if they work there long enough, small percentages of the company as like compensation. So I assume that like ideas like this have been explored already, but this, it's like I said, this kind of hinges on the idea that like people are generally the thing that they're doing, they want the best for that field. They're not doing it selfishly, they're doing it altruistically. It's like it's a normal idea for people to go like, oh yeah, this person has a company to run, and the point of a company is to make money, and I understand that. And then they give companies a pass and they go like, yeah, but you shouldn't be doing these bad corrupt things. And then I think like, is that really the way to think about it? I mean, that's the way things are, but like in my imaginary scenario, it's the point of a company, the point of a business is to reshape the world in a certain way, leave it more beautiful than how you found it, or have some sort of influence, change something, look at a problem and go, I want to change this problem. And money is just the means to it. Like it's what you demand to use as your means of making that change in the world, rather than the purpose of a company. But changing the world in a way where people are actually like wholeheartedly chasing their dreams, and like the majority of people are able to achieve their dreams and there's not so many barriers, that seems like such a far-fetched thing to achieve, at least around me where I live, the people that I talk to. That seems so like outlandish to even imagine. Expect people to be altruistic is impractical, because people are looking out for themselves, and I can't blame them. They're looking out for their kids as well, because they don't assume that their kids are going to be able to chase their dreams and make a living, and make a good living from it, where they're satisfied with what they're making. So they go, okay, I'm going to give my kid, a hand, extra, whatever it might be. And I totally understand that. People that I know who wanted to achieve something, who wanted to get into something that they actually cared about, and it was difficult for them to break into for one reason or another, and then they just got some, 9 to 5 doing something that they don't actually care about. If they were to choose between the well-being of the thing that they're working on, their own job, and getting a raise or whatever, they would choose themselves first rather than the thing that they love. And I guess I'm like wishful thinking, idealist dreaming of like, oh, but what if there's a reality that we could live in where people could like dedicate themselves, and they could like give themselves to a cause that they believe is greater than them and greater than their own lives, and that would like give people a lot of meaning. But it seems impractical.
I mean, I think if you read U.S. history, it was like that for a long time.
Yeah, I think it
Like giving
was.
liberty, giving death. We didn't see capitalism as like, this evil tyrannical thing. No, it's like people who are, ethos of community. I think society's falling apart. People,
Yeah.
if you extend a hand of camaraderie or kindness towards somebody and they take advantage of it, selfishly, then you might learn over time not to do that. Oftentimes, when you do have collective ownership of a business, there is something called the iron law of oligarchy. So even if it seems like very democratic, there will be a circle that develops. Basically, if they can kind of extract the benefit for themselves and spread the pain to the other people, even including their own supporters, they oftentimes do. And I do think like one way to get people to be more altruistic is to have a bunch of people who basically, you can be workers, but they can also be kind of like small landowners. Like you own a farm, I own a shop. We all kind of own something, but in order to kind of make the society better, we don't necessarily want to appoint a king. I guess that's one option, but like we kind of like want to work together and kind of, although the iron law of oligarchy will come back in some way, yeah, you can build an ethos where everyone has like skin in the game. Hopefully it will come back. I think it can come back.